Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we kick off another week, and it's going to be a busy one. Over the weekend, in a last-minute decision, the Wisconsin Supreme Court rejected the state Democratic Attorney General's attempt to block Elon Musk giving away two $1 million checks to voters. We have the details of that rally last night. Two analysts for the Foundation for Government Accountability says that Congress can kick illegal immigrants off of Medicaid and American taxpayers will save billions of dollars. The idea of higher tariffs has a lot of people concerned about higher prices, but President Trump is finding support in an unlikely place. We have the story of how one of President Trump's biggest detractors back during the 2024 campaign is now one of his biggest supporters. And the South Carolina General Assembly introduced legislation last week that could make South Carolina income taxes be one of the most competitive in the nation. Dr. Oran Smith with the Palmetto Promise Institute joins us today to discuss how this could reduce your tax bill.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Trump has an overall approval rating of 50%, with an equal percentage disapproving of the job he's doing, according to a CBS News report survey, their latest survey released yesterday. His approval has dropped a percentage point from last month and is a few points lower than when he returned to the White House 2 months ago. However, his overall approval rating remains above what he received at any point during his first term, according to the latest poll. This strong showing comes despite a week in which one of the major stories was the fallout from Trump administration officials discussing U.S. military plans on the Signal messaging app, which 76% of those surveyed said it was not appropriate to use the app to discuss military plans. On other policies most Americans view as negative, Trump's approval for handling inflation specifically remains in the red, with 56% disapproving of how the president is handling the issue of the economy and inflation. His ratings on handling the economy overall has edged into negative territory as well, with 52% disapproving after it was positive last month. People are getting anxious. They're restless because they see prices continue to go up. They haven't come down. But it's unrealistic for us to think that this is going to happen this quickly. I've said this before, but it needs to be repeated. We've seen so many things happen so quickly during these first 2 months of Trump's administration. So we just automatically think that everything can happen that quickly, that he can get the economy turned around, that he can get inflation down, that he can get food prices down. It's too soon. We got to wait. We got to be patient. We can't turn on Trump now just because 2 months in, prices haven't gone down. I saw a friend of mine posting on Facebook over the weekend. This guy's a smart guy. He has a degree in economics. He made his living. He's retired now, but he made his living in investments and knowing what's going on in the economy. He knows that it's too soon for Trump to have done anything on food prices, for example. Yet he keeps taunting those of us who supported Trump, saying, you still glad you voted for him? He hadn't done anything. The price of eggs is still high. It's too soon, folks. And we have to encourage our friends and our families to be patient. I know it's hard. These negative outlooks on Trump's presidency were somewhat balanced by Americans' views on how Trump's handling the immigration issue, for example. 53% approve on the southern border. 58% are backing his policy of deporting those in the United States illegally. So there's some great things happening there. But the economy is what affects us more than any other on a daily basis. And again, we got to just be patient. Trump said yesterday that Ukrainian President Zelensky is trying to back out of a rare earth deal with the U.S. He says that if he's going to have some problems if he goes through with backing out on this agreement. You know, this is the second time. I mean, Zelensky made a complete idiot of himself at the White House just a few weeks ago. He seemed to come begging back. Now it looks like he's going to renege again. Trump talked to reporters on Air Force One yesterday, traveling back to Washington. He said, I think Zelensky, by the way, he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal, and if he does, he's got some problems, some big, big problems. He said, we made a deal on rare earths, and now he's saying, well, you know, I want to renegotiate the deal. I don't think he's going to get anywhere with Trump on that. Zelensky said last month that Ukraine is ready to sign an agreement on minerals and security with the U.S. at any time, noting that the agreement is seen as a step towards greater security for his country. He doesn't need to be playing around with this because Trump will just walk away completely. Zelensky's statement came after his visit and an additional negotiation with Trump administration officials. One reporter asked if Trump would say his relationship, in the same conversation, his relationship with Russian President Putin was at its lowest point, because there were some reports over the weekend on that as well, that with Trump saying that he is really upset with Putin, and I cleaned that up a bit. The president said that no. He said that he did not think Putin was going to go back on his word for a partial ceasefire. He also said deals are made with people whether you like them or not. He doesn't have to like Putin. Putin doesn't have to like him in order to try to accomplish some peace. The big news over the weekend, and what was particularly exciting yesterday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court unanimously decided not to hear a last-minute attempt by a state attorney general seeking to prevent Elon Musk from giving away million-dollar checks last night. The news came just before the Tesla CEO was set to host an America PAC town hall in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where he was planning to hand over $1 million checks to two voters. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Call had asked the 4-3 liberal majority court to reach a decision as soon as possible, but no later than the planned event on Sunday evening. Wisconsin law prohibits offering anything of value to induce anyone to vote, the AG's filing stated, yet Elon Musk did just that. In court filings, Musk attorneys maintain that the payments are intended to generate a grassroots movement in opposition to activist judges, not to expressly advocate for or against any candidate. So the show went on as planned. At a rally for the state Supreme Court candidate, Judge Brad Schimel, as planned, Musk handed out two $1 million checks to two people at the event who agreed to be spokespeople for the campaign.
Okay, so the first check goes to Nicholas Jacobs. Now, I should say that the reason, the reason for the checks is that it's really just to get attention. It's like we need to get attention, and it's somewhat inevitably when I do these things, the sort of it causes the legacy media to like kind of lose their minds, and then they'll run it on every news channel. And I'm like, I couldn't pay them it would cost like 10 times more, or, to get the kind of coverage they would get. So,
okay, you got to give it to Musk. I'm not so sure. I've always said that Donald Trump is a real showman. I'm not so sure that Elon Musk doesn't give him a run for his money. If you watched any of this, and I watched parts of it live, he is a showman. I mean, this was a political rally. He comes out wearing a cheesehead hat to the tune of Leonard Skinner's Freebird. And the crowd just went crazy, just nuts. Of course, protesters immediately tried to interrupt the event. They failed miserably. Musk said that they must be George Soros supporters. He said, he yelled at them, "Say hi to George for me." And he was waving at them with that big cheese cap on, hat on. He said the derangement level we're seeing from the left blows my mind. As we've been talking about, the crucial election for this Supreme Court justice is coming up tomorrow, and it has the potential to change the direction of the country. So a lot of people say, well, you know, what does a Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin have to do with me? Well, Waukesha County Circuit Judge Schimel is set to battle against ultra-liberal Dane County Circuit Judge Susan Crawford for a spot on the Badger State Supreme Court. A race that could impact, and Musk said this, the future of America and Western civilization. A liberal court could redraw congressional districts and put the GOP's control of the House of Representatives at risk. So that's what this is all about, is not allowing liberal judges to redraw congressional districts so that they can potentially put liberals in those congressional seats. We got to take this seriously, folks. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part, because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. There's a lot of people running scared over the threat of increased tariffs. And I'm not talking about just foreign companies. A lot of Americans are not quite sure what to think. And the left-wing media, they're not helping by constantly talking about the doom and the gloom, the dark pictures that they're painting of what's going to happen. And I have to admit, it makes me a little nervous as well. But here's what you need to know, and this is what I keep reminding myself. Donald Trump is delivering something that the American worker hasn't seen in decades. Real results, real actions, and more real jobs. Trump's 25% tariff on foreign-made vehicles is not just some throwaway policy. It's jobs, and it could be a jobs machine. It's a shockwave aimed straight at the bloated international supply chain that's been gutting our factories and shipping our American livelihoods overseas. And here's what really struck me over the weekend, that maybe, just maybe, there's something to this. When you see things that are shifting towards in the positive direction by people like Shawn Fain. Now, you know who Shawn Fain is? He's the president of the United Auto Workers, a man who spent 2024 campaigning against Donald Trump, trying to make us think Donald Trump is the boogeyman. He fought Trump with every fiber of his being. Suddenly, he's starting to sound like a MAGA man at a union hall. What did Shawn Fain say? Well, he said, and let me quote, "We have excess capacity. They could bring work back in very short order." Basically, to sum it up, Mr. Fain is saying that the tariffs are going to bring production, automobile production, back to the U.S. in a big way. Again, this is the same guy who called Trump deplorable for defending taxpayers against bloated public sector unions. And suddenly he's parroting Trump's playbook on tariffs. If you just read some of his comments and you didn't attribute it to a union boss, you'd think it was somebody out of the Trump administration. It's almost like the truth is so big and obvious that even the left can't ignore it anymore. Now, I've been saying this for a while. Free trade without fair trade is just a con game. For too long, our leaders, both Democrat and Republican, they've sold us out to China. They've sold us out to Mexico and to Canada, to Germany, to the globalist mafia that sees America not as a beacon of liberty, but as their shopping mall. And Donald Trump, he's locking the doors. He's closing down the warehouse. So let's do the math. Last year, an estimated, let's just say about half of the cars sold in America were made outside of the country. Half. For simple math reasons here. And even the so-called American cars, most of them were put together with foreign parts, right down to some of the lug nuts. So you see what Trump's doing here? He's saying, no more. We're not going to do this. You want to sell your cars in the world's greatest economy, you better build them here with our workers, with our steel, on our soil. It's just that simple. And how's the Biden Democrat crowd reacting? Well, as you can imagine, they're panicked. You've got Peter Navarro, Trump's trade pit bull, laying it all out, saying this isn't just about finished cars. This is about the parts, too. Every bolt, every axle, every line of software code that's flown in from Taiwan or stitched together in Mexico, tariffed, which is going to encourage them to do it here and use American workers to do it. And yes, the left is already crying that this is going to raise prices. And that's what makes me a bit nervous. But let me ask you something. When did you last get a discount when foreign imports flooded the market? When did you get a discount on those imported parts? They're just as expensive as anything, right? The savings went straight into the corporate pockets, while our loved ones got laid off from a GM plant in Michigan. The U.S. International Trade Commission, which is not exactly MAGA country, even admitted in a 2023 report that a 25% tariff would reduce vehicle imports by 74%, raise profits for domestic manufacturers, and boost jobs. Why wouldn't we want this? Yes, there may be some temporary pain. There may be some temporary price increases, which I understand we're not in a great position to absorb that. But it's going to balance out. I trust Donald Trump to know that it's going to balance out. So let me say this loud and clear. And think about it. For every sedan that gets made in Kentucky instead of Korea, that's a kid in Ohio who sees their dad head to a plant instead of the unemployment office. That's jobs. Those are good paying jobs. And even this union boss, Sean Fain, knows this is an economic earthquake in the making. Now, yes, he's hedging a bit. He's worried that these new plants might be a non-union. And so that's where he's springing into action, because he wants every single new plant, every job to be a union job. He wants those union dues up so that his salary will continue to be paid. So he has an interest in this. But we all have an interest in it. We all, to a degree, act out of our own selfish interest. You and I want affordable cars. We want to be able to afford a new car every few years. Mr. Fain, he wants more union workers to paying union dues. But all of this is not Trump's fault or not Trump's problem. Trump's just opening the gates. If the union wants to be part of the future, it's going to have to get on the train. It's got to be part of the program. And they may have some concessions to make too. And that's all part of the Trump strategy. Bring them all to the table and work out what's best for the American worker, the American consumer, you and me. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. There was an interesting column in the New York Post over the weekend written by two analysts of the Foundation of Government Accountability. And they basically say that with one stroke, Congress can deliver on three of President Trump's biggest priorities: discourage illegal immigration, reform a broken welfare program, and save taxpayers, you and me, billions of dollars in the process. They say that can all be done if Republicans will roll back Medicaid for illegal aliens in their upcoming reconciliation bill. They go on to write about how this a new report written for the Foundation for Government Accountability, migrants have been allowed and even encouraged to abuse Medicaid at an enormous cost to taxpayers. Medicaid was created for low-income citizens and for lawful residents, let me add. But for more than a decade, and especially under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, states have corrupted the program by letting it cover illegal immigrants. This creates an obvious incentive to enter the U.S. illegally, since foreigners know that they can get health care on our dime. It also pushes vulnerable Americans, including the elderly and people with disabilities, to the back of the line for care. Often, they're stuck behind able-bodied adults who shouldn't be in the country at all. They write, since 2020, according to information, this is from 18 states that they've studied, Medicaid expenditures on illegal aliens have grown by more than 75%. The Biden administration spent $16 billion on emergency services for this population alone, services that must be covered under the federal law. But federal and state taxpayers are spending billions more on non-emergency medical care. This is a crime. The article writes, for years, states have allowed illegal aliens to sign up for Medicaid pending verification of their citizenship or lawful immigration status, a grace window grounded in an assumption of good faith. And we know how that's going to go, don't we? States weren't prepared, though, for the unprecedented influx of illegal migrants in the Biden years, which has led to far more non-citizens than ever before applying for Medicaid, and there's no follow-up. So they remain on the rolls. In the states that responded to the data request, the number of Medicaid recipients who couldn't prove their citizenship or lawful immigration status rose by more than 400% between 2020 and 2023, the prime years of the Biden-Harris administration. And to make matters worse, Biden effectively required states to give these people unlimited Medicaid access. Unlimited, no questions asked. Yet we have people who are American citizens, elderly people, low-income people, veterans who need services, and they have trouble. They have to fight. Sometimes they have to hire attorneys to get the benefits. The Post writes, since June 2024, Washington has forced states to grant endless grace periods, creating an obvious incentive for illegal aliens to lie about their citizenship status. The Biden administration also made it harder to verify applicants' identities by minimizing record-keeping rules. The goal was clearly to get more illegal aliens on Medicaid, regardless of the cost to taxpayers or to Americans who rely on the health care program themselves. Of course, we know that President Trump has promised to put Americans first. Congress must do their part to help him succeed. That starts by ending the federal loophole, allowing people who haven't proved their citizenship or lawful immigration status to obtain Medicaid coverage. Stop it immediately, like right now, today. Congress can simply mandate that until applicants can demonstrate they're a citizen or lawful resident, they don't get a cent of taxpayer-funded health care, period. Shouldn't be any question. It isn't hard to provide a birth certificate. It's not hard to provide a Social Security card if you are, in fact, a citizen. Legitimate applicants who have misplaced their documents would still be protected. Medicaid retroactively covers 90 days of care. The article says that making documentation a condition of getting on the program will save taxpayers at least $5 billion over the next decade, if not more. Next, Congress should stop states from covering illegal immigrants in other ways. Some of these sanctuary states, roughly a dozen states they talk about, including typical suspects like California, Illinois, New York, they passed laws allowing some or all illegal aliens to get non-emergency Medicaid coverage. Federal law does not permit this. So the states claim that all the funding comes from state coffers, but Washington still picks up most of the tab for administrative costs. So if Congress would prohibit any administrative Medicaid spending on illegal aliens, this group estimates federal taxpayers would save another $7 billion over the next 10 years. That might take 12 states, they said, to change their coverage policies. But if they insist on continuing to deprioritize vulnerable Americans, Americans who deserve the benefits, Congress could penalize those states even further, and they should. We have to take care of our own. As President Trump says, make America great again, America first. All Americans should be first in line. And it's hard to do that when you have illegals robbing the system, and you and I are paying for it. The organization says that they recommend that lawmakers impose a penalty that would dock those states' federal Medicaid match by 5% for every quarter in which they continue to cover illegal aliens. Make something that will hurt. They have to feel the pain in order to have an incentive to stop. Over a decade, federal taxpayers could save over $200 billion, according to this report. The states will likely cry uncle well before those savings occur, because if Congress truly makes them feel some of the pain, they're going to get off of this high horse of being sanctuary states and how it's only fair to help these illegals. Either way, according to the report, you and I win. Taxpayers win, because either through less state spending on illegal recipients or less federal matching for wayward blue states, we're going to win. Congress can't ignore this crisis. The Biden administration and blue states corrupted Medicaid by letting illegal aliens compete with American citizens for this care, and they never should have been allowed. They should have never been given a seat at the table. An illegal should never be given an application, period. While low-income families have suffered worse health outcomes, taxpayers pay a pretty penny to cover illegal immigrants while unwittingly encouraging even more to cross the border, because they have a network, as we've talked about many times before. And why wouldn't you? You come over here, you get free health care, you're going to ride home to mama and say, come on over. The water's fine. They give you free health care over here. They don't even ask you questions. You don't even have to complete the application. Just tell them you don't have your documentation. It's crazy. It's crazy what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed to happen over the last 4 years. But we can stop it. And Republicans in U.S. Congress have to stop it. They have to take the lead. They have to start putting America first. America first. No questions asked. You agree? Email me, joeyhudson.com. From education to energy and healthcare, the Palmetto Promise Institute works to improve the daily lives of all South Carolinians, and leading the effort is Dr. Oran Smith, who's a senior fellow with the Palmetto Promise. You can find out more about their work at palmettopromise.org. Last week, we saw GOP leaders in the South Carolina General Assembly come together to promote an issue that many have been working on for a number of years now, and that is to lower the income tax rate in the Palmetto State. On the Palmetto Promise website, they write, South Carolina's tax system is unfair, unstable, and uncompetitive. With the highest individual income tax rates in the Southeast, complexity and special interest giveaways leave individuals and small businesses footing this hefty bill. Dr. Smith, this is an issue you and I have talked about. You and your colleagues have been working on for quite a while now. Give us your take on this latest proposal in the legislature.
Yes, well, Joey, I tell you, I could not be any more thrilled at this announcement. I trudged up to the State House and stood there in front of the governor and Speaker Smith and President Alexander with the Senate and Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee Peeler, And it was a very exciting day. I can't believe it is happening because we have been complaining, cajoling, trying to provide some intellectual ammunition to the effort to reduce the individual income tax in South Carolina since our first study on the matter in 2015. So we were founded in 2013, and we put out a major study in 2015. So 10 years now, we have been working to try to get this tax cut down. It was 7% just a couple of years ago, and that was the highest in the Southeast by far. It was really embarrassing. So, yes, this earlier this week was a real bold move.
Yeah. Dr. Smith, tell us what you liked about what the proposal is and what you've seen in the bill, and then tell us what you don't like and what you would have liked to have seen in it.
Yes, well, there are a lot of things to like. I mean, it takes our rate, which has come down from 7 to 6.2, takes that down to 3.99, and then it also has a plan for how it can go to 2.49. So 2.49 would be lower than any other state. Arizona's 2.5. So of the states that have income taxes, we would be the lowest at 2.49 if we meet the revenue targets. And so far we have been meeting those revenue targets. So we're looking over at North Carolina and Georgia. Georgia's going down to 4.99. They're targeting to get to that by 2029. North Carolina wants to go to 3.99 by 2027. And I remember when we said there's no way we could go to 3.99 or 4.99 and be anywhere near Georgia and North Carolina. But boom, we're going to be at 3.99 to start for the opening bid, and then going to 2.49. So we're thrilled about that. We're thrilled that it doesn't tax anything new. Yeah. Some of the national tax experts said, oh, of course you're going to go to 3.99 and 2.49, but you're going to find something else to tax. Yeah. Because most states who lower their taxes, they find they call it broadening the base. So they expected us to, say, broaden the base on sales tax to cover more services, because we tax products, but we don't tax services much in South Carolina. When I told them, hey, no, we're not going to tax anything new, we're going to just lower the rate, and we're going to make it flat rate. Everybody pays the same. So those are all really, really good points about this thing.
Yeah, Dr. Oran Smith with me today with the Palmetto Promise Institute. Go to palmettopromise.org, and you can see all the great work that they have done over the years, and check out their freedom agenda for 2025-2026. Dr. Smith, I moderated a legislative forum last week, and I'm not going to call any specific names, but I had some legislators seem to suggest that if in fact this takes place, and they were pretty confident that it would, that we should be happy with this and not expect more. Now, there were some people in the audience who were cheering for no income tax. Is it realistic to think that we might ever get to the point that we eliminate it altogether?
I think we probably could, particularly with Florida and Tennessee not having an income tax. But, and this may get me booed out of the room in certain cases, but we have always said there needs to be some income tax. It just needs to be at a very low level. And the reason we say that is we perceive taxes to be like a three-legged stool. Yeah. And in order to make sure that your system is stable, so no matter what's happening in the economy, you have different levers. You have income, you have property, and you have sales. And you don't let one of those completely take over. But if we go down to 2.49, then we have something there to provide a little bit of cushion if we get into real trouble. Of course, the other side of this, though, is we've got to rein in spending as well. That's the other side of this. Yeah. So we've got to make sure that government does not grow faster than the number of people coming in and inflation and the cost of living. So that's kind of the challenge. Let's have a very, very low income tax. Let's make sure it's flat. And let's make sure that we treat businesses properly. A lot of businesses file their income tax as an individual. It is a business expense, it's business activity, but they file a schedule with their tax return and they file it with their business. So this individual tax, which is coming down, if it goes down to 2.49, then businesses, which many of them are paying about 3% now, they would actually get a tax cut as well for their business. So that's a way to really spur economic growth, and we really love that part of it as well.
Yeah. Dr. Smith, is there any, do you think it's realistic to think that they may pass this during this session?
I think it's looking really good. And, one thing that happened toward the end of the news conference that was somewhat humorous is they gave the floor to Senator Harvey Peeler. And Senator Peeler from Gaffney, he's been the driving force behind reducing the income tax as much as possible and has always been the most aggressive in calling for a reduction in the income tax. And his parting shot was, well, this is a wonderful bill you filed, Mr. Speaker. We know the House is doing their best, but we'll make it even better in the Senate. And everybody sort of chuckled. But he could come back with something additional.
Yeah.
Like he could come back with maybe a commercial property tax cut, which we're in sore need of, or he could come back with another type of residential property tax cut, or we have a corporate tax. Most states are now, North Carolina is phasing theirs out. They're dropping their corporate income tax, also known as a stock tax.
Yeah.
If we get rid of that, oh boy, now we're really cooking. So I could see Senator Peeler maybe trying to one up the House a little bit, have a little tax cut contest. That would be wonderful.
Well, funny that you mentioned that, because at this legislative forum that I mentioned last week, Senator Thomas Alexander, President of the Senate, happened to be there. Now, he wasn't on the panel with me, but he was there, and he mentioned to people at his table as they were saying, let's just go to zero income tax, he mentioned to them, well, I think you're going to like what we're going to do to it. So,
oh, wow. Yes, that would be very exciting, because at that point, now we're really, but we're doing so well. We were quoted in a national news story recently about U-Haul tracks, U-Haul rental around the country, and we were the number one place that people are renting U-Hauls to come into. So we're really booming. Yeah. The question is, what does this cause as far as stress on our economy? And one of those areas is energy. And, you and I have talked a lot about energy and the need for a stable energy source for South Carolina. So that kind of makes me a little nervous, but we want as many people coming in and paying taxes as we can. Yeah.
Speaking of energy, and we have just a couple of minutes left here, maybe we'll visit again sometime soon, but you wrote a column published in the South Carolina Daily Gazette about the state of our future energy supply in South Carolina. And this is an issue that we've talked about quite a bit. You wrote, our goal should not be just to keep the lights on. It should be about saving consumers money and fostering economic growth through modernization. You write about a couple of options that could introduce some competition in the energy market. Have about 2 minutes left. Talk with us about that.
Yes, very quickly. One of those was an energy imbalance market, and that's a really fancy, confusing term for having the utilities share and track their needs. Like if all the utilities in South Carolina were not operating completely independently, Dominion may need some power one day that Duke could supply, or Santee Cooper may need some power that Dominion could supply. But if the trading of the energy is done in real time, there's a possibility for lowering costs, because these independent, freestanding energy giants would not be operating separately. They would actually be cooperating. And then the second was something they have in Georgia, and that is if you're buying a certain amount of electricity, you're allowed to put that out for bid. So what if we set, say, a certain level of kilowatts, that if you're using that level, then you have the ability to shop around, and then your local utility would bring the power in. They would be paid for bringing the power to you, but the power could come from some other place in the state. So you could have municipals, you could have the investor-owned utilities, all the different utilities competing against one another for the business of maybe a larger buyer of energy. So those are two ideas we put out this week in the Daily Gazette.
Yeah. Dr. Oran Smith, Senior Fellow with Palmetto Promise Institute. Go to palmettopromise.org. Always appreciate your time as usual. And let's plan a time again soon and really dig into this energy issue. That's an important one as well.
Yes, that sounds great. Looking forward to it.
All right. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.